G'day and welcome to episode 23 of Travel Pointers, the podcast for frequent flyers. It's the 1st of December 2025 and I'm Matt Green, the editor of Australian Frequent Flyer.
And I'm Wilson McTaggart, a writer at AFF and AFF admin.
In this episode, which are the world's best airlines? And Australians often focus their attention on only two of the three global alliances, Oneworld and Star Alliance. A lot of people seem to forget that SkyTeam exists, but it's exactly for that reason that this alliance could be worth your while to learn about. We'll talk about that a bit later as well. But first, let's have a look at some of the news from the past couple of weeks, Wilson. And firstly, Qantas and Virgin Australia are banning the use of power banks on board their flights from this month. It's also your last chance in a couple of weeks. Amex will increase the rates at which you can transfer points out to many of its overseas partners. So it's the last chance to transfer your American Express membership rewards points out to overseas airlines at the current lower rates. Virgin Australia is closing its premium lounge entry in Sydney Airport. That's a shame. It's one of the relics of the John Borghetti era of Virgin Australia and quite a treasured benefit by Velocity Platinum and Gold members, but that's closing this month. Over across in the other domestic terminal in Sydney Airport, though, Qantas has added burgers in its domestic business lounge. You can pick up a burger freshly made at the Panini Bar. Velocity Frequent Flyer has launched a new way to earn Velocity status credits based on the distance you're flying rather than the dollars you're spending on domestic flights. And you can do that now if you book through Virgin Australia Holidays. There are a few catches though, like you need to book it as part of a holiday package, including a hotel at your destination, and you can only book a round trip flight. Because it is a holiday package, it's a flight and hotel package. But you will earn status credits if you book through that method based on the distance you fly, and you'll earn status credits for each sector rather than the new spend-based method of $12 per status credit. Jetstar has launched Qantas Frequent Flyer Extra, which is an add-on that you can buy on top of a Club Jetstar membership. And this lets you earn points and Qantas status credits on every Jetstar fare, including if you're buying a Jetstar ticket that doesn't have a bundle that lets you normally earn Qantas points and status credits. Although the status credits are limited to $75 a year, and this does cost $199 a year to buy a Qantas Frequent Flyer Extra. So a little bit of a niche offering. I'm not sure how much take-up there'll be on that one. Now, Qantas will improve the downgrade compensation policy for customers on classic reward tickets. So Qantas, I believe earlier this year, changed its downgrade policy. So if you're involuntarily downgraded on a commercial flight booking, so if you've paid cash for your ticket, and you get downgraded to a lower cabin, Qantas will now refund you 75% of the fare value for that sector. This also applies if you have a broken seat in a premium cabin. Now, Qantas says that it's going to also implement a much better policy for downgrades on classic reward tickets, but that hasn't happened just yet, but we believe it's coming, which is good news. And this is a kind of an interesting one, Wilson's. Cathay Pacific no longer lets you change the frequent flyer number on your ticket, at least not online, not on the website or through the call center. I think the only way to do it now is at the airport check-in counter. And once you've checked in as well, you can't change it. You can't change it further. Now, this probably seems to like a bit of a niche thing to a lot of people, but there's a few implications here. So, like if you for example if you have Oneworld Sapphire or Emerald status and you want to use the lounge, but you want to credit the flight to a different airline, you can no longer use your frequent flyer number that's linked to your Oneworld status to get into the lounge and then change the number before boarding to earn points and miles with the other program. There's a few other implications as well.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly definitely makes it harder to do exactly what you described. And I mean, ostensibly, Cathay have done this to prevent fraud, where people would obviously log in with, steal someone's login and then use it to book themselves a ticket and then change the number, change the passenger details so that they can fly the ticket themselves. But as you said, it has implications beyond that, and Cathay does this thing with especially economy tickets, where the fare class that you're booking may not be eligible to earn points on partner programs, and it doesn't matter what a sort of fare type you book, it's still the same fare class. And so I know that this is something that's burned me before, that it can be a bit frustrating that I want to still access my Oneworld benefits. I have Oneworld Emerald through Qantas, but I still want to earn some miles, and a lot of the economy fares that I can book with Cathay, they aren't eligible to earn points with Qantas. So I'd want to apply my Cathay number to that booking to get points, but I can't do both.
Yeah, and especially not now. I've got an upcoming booking with Cathay Pacific, and I've got my Qantas frequent flyer number on the booking. This is a flex ticket, which is upgradable, and there is upgrade availability, and I have Asia miles that I can use for the upgrade. So I'd like to upgrade the ticket, but I can't do that because I've got a Qantas frequent flyer number on the booking, and if I try to go into the Cathay website to change it, it's locked, so I can't change it to my Cathay number in order to process the upgrade. It actually tells you can't do this, and the only way to do it is at the airport desk or something. Now, on one hand, it's a bit annoying, and I know Loyalty Lobby has written a series of articles about this, saying that Cathay has gone to war with frequent flyers. Now, that's one interpretation. Another interpretation is actually that they're trying to protect their frequent flyers. And if we look at the reasons why, now I don't know specifically why Cathay is doing this, but another Oneworld airline last year was made some similar changes, which were actually necessary to combat fraud. And what was happening? This is a kind of bizarre, but um, airport staff or someone with who probably worked for the airline or was an agent of the airline or had at least had access to the systems to be able to do this. Someone was basically changing the frequent flyer numbers on people's bookings after they'd already checked in for the flight or even boarded the flight. They were basically creating new accounts in the names of the passengers on these flights with a different partner airline program. They were then changing the frequent flyer number on these people's bookings to the new, basically so that they were earning points with this new fraudulent account that these people had been creating. And they were doing this systematically. And they were then basically accumulating the points in another program in an account which was in the name of the passenger, then doing a transfer out and basically selling those points for profit. And what would happen then is that if you were the passenger whose points had been redirected over to this fraudulent account that someone else had created in your name, the points would therefore not credit to your actual account because they'd already been credited to a partner program. And then if you tried to do a missing points claim, it would say, sorry, you've already earned the points in another program, so they reject the claim. And there's been quite a few cases of this reported on AFF and on Fire Talk and elsewhere. And it became so bad that airline also stopped people from, or at least made it harder for people to change the frequent flyer number on the booking. Although I think that airline does let you do it over the phone.
Yeah, I can understand why you would make the changes to stop people changing frequent flyer numbers in such a widespread case of fraud like that. And obviously, if someone with airport access is doing this for hundreds of bookings a day, that's a lot of miles they're going to rack up pretty quickly.
I do wonder. I don't know exactly who was doing this or whether they got caught. I hope they're in jail because they were doing this they did this systematically, to thousands of people.
There was definitely intent behind it, wasn't there? There was no accidental, I accidentally clicked the wrong button kind of thing, was it?
No, they were opening up brand new accounts in these passengers' names. That was a thing. Anyway, Wilson, let's go on to the next topic, shall we? So, which are the world's best airlines? Well, of course, it depends who you ask, and obviously, every airline has its pros and cons, and that's quite subjective. But in general, the most authoritative source that people I guess kind of listen to in terms of looking at which are the world's best airlines is probably Skytrax. Now we talked a couple of episodes ago about the world's best airports according to Skytrax. I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at what they consider to be the world's top 20 airlines and whether we agree with that or not. But for those who haven't seen the Skytrax ratings this year, Skytrax considers Qatar Airways to be the world's best airline. And actually, as I mentioned in the last episode, I recently flew with Qatar Airways, and they actually announced on board, "Welcome to Qatar Airways, the world's best airline." They're very, very proud of that. Followed very closely by Singapore Airlines as number 2. And then 3 is Cathay Pacific, 4 Emirates, 5 All Nippon Airways, 6 Turkish Airlines, 7 Korean Air, then Air France, Japan Airlines, Hainan Airlines, Swiss. How do you pronounce this one, Wilson? Is it EVA or EVA Air, the Taiwanese Star Alliance
I
carrier?
always say EVA Air,
I think it
but
is EVA Air
I'm not actually sure.
because it's an acronym. But then again, Qantas is
Yeah.
an acronym too. Let's go with EVA Air. 13 is British Airways, followed by number 14 Qantas, or is it QANTAS? No, I think this one's called.
We'll go with Qantas
Go with
just
Qantas.
for this one.
Very good.
Yeah.
15 Lufthansa, 16 Virgin Atlantic, 17 Saudi Arabian Airlines, 18 Starlux, 19 Air Canada, and 20 Iberia. Qatar Airways, world's best airlines. What do you think?
I think they love to mention it. I think it's the 9th time they've won this or something like that.
Solid record.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, Qatar are definitely up there with one of the world's best. I think it's a pretty fair ranking. Obviously, their business class is very, very well regarded, and economy class is still not too bad. Doha is a pretty solid airport to transit through as well as a hub. So, yeah, there's pretty solid marks all around.
Yeah, I think Saudi Arabian at number 17 is a little bit of a surprise to me. I flew with Saudi this year, and actually it was a 777 with 9 across. So that was actually kind of nice. Like it was the seat was a bit more spacious. I didn't think the rest of the experience would have been like a top 20 airline kind of experience. Like the ground experience was just okay. The in-flight entertainment was not amazing. The service on board was okay. Like it was fine, but I wouldn't say that it's probably deserving of a top 20 spot. But that's just me. It wasn't bad. It's okay. I could think of other airlines though that are probably more deserving.
Yeah, 100%.
And Air Canada and Iberia as well kind of stick out to me as not sure. Like Air Canada, I've flown a bunch of times. I think you have too, Wilson. They're fine.
Yeah, that's exactly how I describe the experience, right? I do note that there's no US-based airlines on the top 20 list.
Fair enough, no?
I don't necessarily disagree with that. They're okay as well. Maybe Alaska, actually quite... Well, I don't mind flying with Alaska. Probably pick that as a preference over other US-based airlines. They just seem to get it right more often than not. But yeah, and I know Iberia as well. Definitely feels like a more of a low-cost carrier experience in a lot of regards.
Yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed with Iberia because they've owed me money for the last 9 months, and I actually just paid out last week. But it took 9 months. I had to complain to the Civil Aviation Authority in the relevant country. It was a whole process just for them to get what they legally owed me. That wasn't great. And on board, the experience is like it's fine, but it's not special. I don't think.
Yeah, I guess once you get it's kind of beyond the top sort of 10, 15 in the Skytrax list, it kind of feels like you get into the it's okay from at least from an economy class perspective. For business class, obviously, there's a much more differentiation in product, but also understand that the vast majority of people are not traveling in business class. So ranking an airline based off their business class seems a little bit, I guess, counterintuitive.
Yeah, and I mean Skytrax does have rankings for the best business class, best economy, best premium economy, and so on as well. I guess these we're just looking here at the overall ratings. 13 British Airways.
I know some would prefer to say bloody awful, and when British Airways goes wrong, it just seems to go very, very wrong. When it does it right, it seems decent.
Yeah, it's like again, like it can be fine. It can be also not fine quite quickly.
Exactly, and it's kind of similar to Qantas in that regard, I guess. But maybe I'm being nationalistic here, but like Australian sort of service appeals to me a bit more. And when Qantas does it right, I think they're very, very good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There's a few on this list that I definitely do agree with, and I mean, like my top 5 would be well, actually, I published an article on this last week, so feel free to have a read of that. As there's a link in the episode notes. But my top 5, my favorite, which I think I've probably mentioned at least once or twice before on this podcast, would be Air Astana, the national airline of Kazakhstan. Absolutely superb airline with like great attention to detail, well run, very safe, great product, good service. The call, if you call the call center, they answer straight away and they provide good service in English. Um, yeah, it's a very very good overall airline. Maybe it's a little bit too small to make the Skytrax top list, but if they usually win, best airline in Central Asia at least. So
Yes.
certainly in their region, they're well regarded. My second favorite would be Turkish Airlines, which is on that list, as well as Singapore Airlines, Japan Airlines, and Lufthansa. Turkish Airlines predominantly for the food, but like
Yes.
they're catering. It doesn't matter if you're flying on a short economy flight or long haul business class. Their food is generally excellent, and you don't go hungry on Turkish Airlines. And the rest of the experience is pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Singapore Airlines as well, pretty consistent, good food, comfortable seats, and even in economy, like it's pretty good. Japan Airlines has a great economy class as well, and Lufthansa. I just really like the service like culture on Lufthansa, and that's a very much a personal thing.
Yeah, I can understand that perhaps German service is not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay.
No, if you want a cup of tea, you got to go to British Airways.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe just a pint of various lagers, but no, Lufthansa I think is perhaps a little underrated, at least by Skytrax. I think.
Yeah, I'm a fan, and I love how this is a small thing, but I love how at the start of a long haul flight they literally announce this is the service flow on today's flight. In 1 hour, we're going to serve you dinner. There will be hot and cold drinks available with it, and then 2 hours before landing, we're going to serve you breakfast, which will be this. It's just a simple thing. It helps you plan of when you might want to sleep and so on. It's very German.
Yes, exactly.
And I think their safety standards also are excellent. Now, our writer Stephen Gray, who writes sometimes for AFF, also came up with a list of his top 5, and you can read also his top 5 in on the website. We published this list last Thursday. Feel free to have a read. Now, his top 5 were number 1 Cathay Pacific, number 2 ANA, 3 Qantas, 4 Qatar Airways, and 5 Rex. Now,
There's probably a big outlier here.
yeah, one of these things is not like the other. he's I mean, you can read his article and obviously have a read of his reasoning for all of those things, and I've also explained my reasoning in my article. But he's nominated Cathay Pacific because he's a big fan of Hong Kong, and he feels that Cathay Pacific really represents the best of Hong Kong. And I kind of agree. Like the airlines that really represent their home country and do it really well, and take pride in that, and like when you get on board, you feel like you're in that place. It's really nice. It's better than getting on a generic international airline that makes you feel nothing.
Yes.
I don't know if I should name any names there.
Well, you want to feel like you're already, I guess, partway onto your holiday when you step on board an airline. Like obviously there's the feeling around going to an airport and everything, but if that airline can make you feel like you're going to your destination already, or if that's coming home, I think that really does add to the experience, even though it's a sort of intangible thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of Australians like getting on a Qantas plane overseas and hearing the familiar accents, unless they're Cruise Jet Connect, but that's another matter. Now, why did Stephen say Rex? Well, he's kind of nominated yes, obviously they're a smaller airline, and they're no longer flying 737s, so they're just flying small, turboprops to regional destinations. He loves the service on Rex, the country hospitality, which I think is a very fair point. And Stephen also mentioned that he likes flying on the Saab 340s because he likes that experience of really feeling like you're flying. I personally would think of that more as a bug rather than a feature. I don't particularly love feeling every single bump and every gust of wind when I'm flying, but I guess as
I think you flew on a Saab 340 recently, and you likened it to being in a washing machine or something like that.
Yeah. I'm not as much of a fan of Stephen, but I can respect that everyone has different opinions, and I can see that he would enjoy the service if he really likes that feeling of flying. Now, Wilson, what would your top 5 be?
Yeah, so I mean, my favorite airline is exactly the same as Stephen's. It's Cathay. I love the food on board. I'm, I guess, more partial to Asian food on board an airline in general.
Oh, same, definitely.
I think it just works better. I don't know why, but just the flavor combinations work better. both Cathay and Singapore Airlines, my next favorite, they're both very consistent as well. I found in the experience, you get on board and you know what you're getting. As Stephen said, and I 100% agree, they both reflect where they're flying to as well. You get a bit of the sense of the culture. My third favorite is, well, now ITA Airways, former Alitalia, specifically for that reason that you feel like you're in Italy when you get on board. I think I've described it when talking about the top airports of the world, that Rome Airport, it feels a bit of style over substance, and Alitalia / ITA Airways, it definitely feels like that as well when you're on board. They don't always get it right operationally. Definitely, like, that's the case, but it feels like you're in Italy on board.
Do you know what Alitalia used to stand for, according to some people? Wasn't it aircraft landed in Tokyo, all luggage in Athens, or something like this?
I believe that it's a very apt acronym. It's like, yeah, it's not for the I guess, like, operational efficiency.
No, if you want that, you can fly Lufthansa.
Well, I'm sure some some Germans would argue differently as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it is a sort of a weird quirk that people tend to criticize their national airline a lot more. I would say, like, British people in particular lay into British Airways.
Oh, 100%. British people just love to complain in general. So
Well,
the number of
that's
complaints from British people complaining about British Airways, it's, oh my goodness.
Yes, and obviously Australians, I mean, definitely not wrong in bashing Qantas about certain things, but we do like to complain about Qantas. Germans probably would complain about Lufthansa, and French people would probably complain about Air France.
Germans definitely complain about Lufthansa. I don't know about do French people really dish on Air France? I'm not sure about
If
that.
anyone's French,
I think French people
let us
kind of
know.
like Air France. Yeah, let us know if you're French.
Yeah,
What you think of Air France.
there you go. Anyway, fourth best would be Japan Airlines for me, as you said before. They're very, very good economy class products. Great food on board, great service. They just tick all the boxes. And last for me, rounding out the list, is Qatar. I don't mind their economy. It's economy experience. It's okay. It's not the most amazing thing ever, but it's not bad. Their business class is fantastic. Their lounges, they do very well. But that's just my sort of in-flight experience. I will say that I have rarely had things go wrong with pretty much all of the airlines on the list, and so I'm not, I guess, aware of their like customer service resolutions, like, aspect to their service, and so that is, I guess, something to color my judgment.
Do you think the aircraft types that these airlines are flying makes any difference? Like, one of the reasons that I've got Lufthansa in my top 5 is because they fly still the 747-400, the 747-8, the A380, A340-600, like all of these kind of classic older jets, which are really a joy to fly with.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's really cool. If you're walking, like, towards your gate and you see, like, a 747 parked out there, or an A380, or, like, even the modern jets, the A350s, they're great to fly on as well. So I think that makes a huge impact.
Yeah, if you see a 747 parked at the gate, it brings joy in a way that a Saab doesn't. At least in my case, doesn't really feel the same.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that's the fairest comparison ever, but I understand what you're saying.
Or even an Airbus A320 or a 737. I mean, the Airbus A320 and the 737, perfectly good, capable aircraft, good efficiency, all these things. They're so ubiquitous. You fly on them all. Like, if you fly a lot, you're probably going to be flying on these like all the time. They're kind of just bland. I don't know.
Yeah, well, at least from the outside, I think that's why I love ITA so much, is that the cabin itself is quite flash. The finishes on the seats are very, very colourful, and it feels like it's got character, versus, I mean, getting on a Jetstar A320 or 321, very black. It's a bit bland, but I mean, they have neon lights or something, so it's okay.
And bigger overhead bins.
Oh yes,
on the new ones anyway. Do you think that people actually? I mean, people talk about this. We're talking about the Skytrax ratings now. Do you think people actually make their booking decisions based on which airlines are in the top 10 or whatever?
I think it actually does make a little bit of an impact. I think if you search up something like, is Japan Airlines a good airline or something like that? An article saying where, or an AI result nowadays saying where Japan Airlines ranks on the Skytrax ratings will probably come up. So I think it actually does make an impact. I think safety is probably a more common search, and Skytrax has its own sort of rankings for that.
So anyway, those are our thoughts. Do you have your own top 5 airlines? There's an AFF thread where we asked this question last week. Feel free, we'll link in the episode notes. Feel free to go on and have a look at what other AFF members have said, and also let us know what your top 5 favorite airlines are and why that is. Yeah, it'd be very interested to have a look. So a quick heads up, if you are a Qantas Club member or you've been thinking about joining Qantas Club to get that lounge access, on the 11th of December 2025, so next week, Qantas will increase its Qantas Club membership renewal and joining fees, and it's also removing the 4-year option. So instead of a 1-year, a 2-year, and a 4-year option, you'll only have a 1 and a 2-year option with Qantas Club going forward. Now, the good news is you can still buy or renew an existing Qantas Club membership at the current rates until the 10th of December. And if you are already a Qantas Club member, you can also pre-purchase your renewal. So you could even, in fact, take advantage of the lower 4-year rate, which is currently available. Pre-purchase that before the increase in the price, and that will just be added on to your existing membership term. So even if your membership hasn't expired yet, you can still renew it already and pay in advance at the lower rates. Don't forget also that AFF Gold and Platinum members can get a 20% discount on Qantas Club membership and renewal fees. So if you are thinking about joining or renewing, make sure you do it by the 10th of December, and don't forget to use the AFF discount as well so you can save money. Well, a lot of Australians pay close attention to the Oneworld Alliance, of which, of course, Qantas is a member, and there's also, a bit of focus in Australia on the Star Alliance. But there are 3 global alliances. There's also the SkyTeam Alliance, which seems to be kind of forgotten about in a large part of Australia. Now, the SkyTeam Alliance. There aren't any airlines based in Australia in the SkyTeam Alliance, but there are a bunch that do fly to Australia. And the fact that most Australians kind of just ignore it exists and also don't have points with a SkyTeam program actually is one of the reasons why it's particularly lucrative if you know what you're doing. So for those who are not familiar with the SkyTeam Alliance, I just wanted to start by mentioning which airlines are part of it. And so over in Asia, you have Garuda Indonesia, there's Vietnam Airlines, China Airlines based in Taiwan, Korean Air, China Airlines. Is it Xiamen Air? Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, good. Saudi Arabian Airlines, which was one of the Skytrax top 20s, Kenya Airways, Middle East Airlines based in Lebanon. There's Tarom, which is the national airline of Romania. Air Europa in Spain, Air France, KLM, Virgin Atlantic, SAS in Scandinavia. And then over in the Americas, you have Delta, Aeromexico, and Aerolíneas Argentinas. So I think 19 member airlines in total. ITA Airways, of course, just recently left and is joining the Star Alliance. Now, of those airlines, most of the Asian ones, as well as Delta, do fly to Australia. And the reason why I think it's worth mentioning this is, like, when's the last time you tried to use Qantas points or, whatever points you have, maybe velocity points, to try and fly to Asia or Europe or the Middle East, and just found that it was really hard to get business class award seats on the dates that you wanted? If you've tried recently to do that, you've probably came across that. There's, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it. 1 in 3 Australian credit cards earns Qantas points on every transaction. There are so many Australians with Qantas points and a lot of Qantas points in circulation. And so you have all of these people earning large amounts of Qantas points competing for those in-demand reward seats. Same with Velocity and with Star Alliance as well. Like there's, it's less of an issue, I guess. Like Singapore Airlines does have pretty good availability in and out of Australia, for example, if you have KrisFlyer miles. But there are still more Australians with points in the Star Alliance program or with access to Star Alliance points. I mean, you can even transfer Velocity points directly to KrisFlyer and then redeem on Star Alliance. So I guess there's more opportunities. Now, it's kind of a curse in disguise because on one hand, it's quite hard relatively in Australia to earn points with a SkyTeam frequent flyer program. On the other hand, since so few Australians use SkyTeam and have points with the SkyTeam airline, there's pretty wide open award availability on, for example, on Garuda Indonesia, on Vietnam Airlines, China Eastern, in and out of Australia, on including in business class for multiple passengers. And in fact, like I've seen many flights with up to 9 premium economy award seats available on Vietnam Airlines, for example. If you can get points in a SkyTeam program, you have a lot more options in terms of actually finding award availability on dates you want. Now, admittedly, over to Africa, South America, or North America, there's fewer options. Delta doesn't really release that much saver availability, and like over to Africa, you'd probably have to fly through Asia to get there. But if you wanted to fly to Asia, plenty of options, and there's also lots of onward connections from Asia to Europe. So I guess the question you're wondering now is, how do I actually get points in the SkyTeam airline to actually be able to take advantage of this? Um, Now, there is one option at the moment if you have Australian credit card points to transfer those to a SkyTeam airline, and that's with American Express membership rewards. So you can transfer Amex membership rewards points currently at a 2-to-1 rate to Virgin Atlantic Flying Club. Virgin Atlantic is a SkyTeam member. Now, that rate will change on the 15th of December to a 3-to-1 rate. So if you get in before the 15th of December, you can get that better 2-to-1 rate, but it will be changing. And with Virgin Atlantic points, Virgin Atlantic, if you recall, was actually we rated that as the most valuable points of the ones that we looked at in our AFF point valuations as well. So they have pretty reasonable redemption rates, and you can redeem them. For example, I think it's 40,000 Virgin Atlantic points to fly Garuda business class to Bali from Sydney or Melbourne.
Yeah, which is a great product as well. Actually, it's a lie flat beds on most of its flights. It does depend on the aircraft you get, but most of the time it's lie flat bed, and obviously you can fly that onto Asia as well, which is pretty cool.
And lots of availability as well with Vietnam Airlines.
Yeah, and I think it's 75,000 from Australia to Vietnam, which is
In business, right?
75,000 Virgin Atlantic miles for business class. Yes, and again, great product, modern aircraft, A350s that they fly. So it's a really good option, especially considering that, I mean, if you've stuck with Qantas points and you want to fly direct to Vietnam, your other option is Jetstar.
And of course, from Vietnam, you can fly onwards to Europe. The connection times vary. There's some good connections. There's some routings where you have quite a long layover in Vietnam, but it is fairly widely available. I think just with Virgin Atlantic, though, if you have a multi-stop itinerary, you basically pay the points for the sum of the points for each individual sector. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So it's definitely a program that's better used for long, I guess, direct flights or non-stop flights, because that's just the way that their award chart works, and that's okay. You got to know each quirk of the program.
Yeah, you can also, for example, transfer American Express points to Marriott Bonvoy, or and Marriott Bonvoy points by staying at hotels, or by even just buying Marriott Bonvoy points, and then transfer them to, for example, Delta Sky Miles. Delta actually has pretty competitive redemption rates if you wanted to fly a SkyTeam from Australia to, say, Europe as well. Pretty cheap. Much better value than actually redeeming those Sky Miles on Delta flights, ironically.
Yeah, it's a bit of a juxtaposition, I guess. It's terrible. They're terrible to use on Delta's own flights. Sky Pesos is, I guess, another moniker for Delta Sky Miles, but on their partners within Asia in particular, it's good availability and very, very competitive award rates. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah. And even if you wanted to fly to North America or North Asia, like Korean Air can be a reasonable option. Korean Air flies to both Sydney and Brisbane. There's a bit of availability in business on those flights. Vietnam Airlines also flies now from, is it Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi to San Francisco? Off the top of my head, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure they fly now to San Francisco, and they do have award availability between Vietnam and San Francisco, so you can connect one stop through Vietnam and go that way if you can't find anything nonstop. Flying Blue, the frequent flyer program of Air France and KLM, also is not a terrible one. It's a bit harder to earn the points in Australia, but you can buy Flying Blue points or transfer them over from a program like Marriott as well. So there's a few options, and some of the SkyTeam airlines as well do partner with other programs that are not SkyTeam airlines. So, for example, you can use Qatar Airways Avios or Etihad Guest Miles to fly Garuda, Indonesia, and access that same good availability in business class to Bali and Jakarta. And I think you can even use you can use Qantas points to fly China Airlines to Taiwan. You can also use Qantas points to fly China Eastern, but there's a little bit of a catch there. I think you have to search for one-way or return flights. If you use the multi-city tool, those China Eastern flights don't come up.
Yes, that was a recent change. Until recently, you couldn't even use your Qantas points on China Eastern flights at all. So,
there was a temporary thing where they weren't appearing on the site.
Yeah, and you can also use your Qantas points on Air France and KLM, which can actually be quite decent value from Asia to Europe. Generally, the surcharges are quite high, but I know you've used your Qantas points to fly KLM business class before.
Yeah, that was a transatlantic flight. I think the carrier charges, it was a business class ticket. The carrier charges were between $400 and $500 or something. But it was still for a transatlantic long haul business class flight, it was not bad. And I quite enjoyed the flight as well. China Eastern is actually also just about to start a flight from Auckland to Buenos Aires, which could be an interesting way to get to South America. I haven't yet seen any award availability on that route, but I'll be keeping a very close eye because that could be a quite lucrative way to get to South America. If they do release any award availability on that, right? That's an interesting fifth freedom route that's starting very soon. Yeah, so a few good options out there. You don't have to just earn Qantas points or Velocity points. There are other options out there which open up more of the world. So, have a look into SkyTeam if that's of interest. And that brings us to the end of episode 23 of Travel Pointers. Do have a look at the episode notes if you'd like any more information about the topics we've discussed today. And you can also find a link there to the thread where you can let us know what your 5 favorite airlines are. And if you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to rate and review us on your favorite podcasting platform. That'll help other people to find our podcast and learn all of the tips and tricks for Australian flyers. Until next time, happy travels.
Thanks for listening.